political issue, no doubt, as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Everything's negotiated down there.
Deb Farrick, appreciate it, Deb. Thanks very much. And I want to bring in right now Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, who is founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. And he says the proposed mosque is offensive. Also joining us right now is Reza Aslan, who is a Daily Beast columnist and the author of How to Win a Cosmic War, God, Globalization, and the End of the War on Terror. And he believes that Muslims have every right to build this mosque. Welcome to both of you. Dr. Jasser, let me start with you. Republican Congressman Peter King told the Associated Press, and here's a quote, that it is a house of worship, but we are at war with al-Qaeda. I think the 9/11 families have a right to know where the funding comes from. I think there are significant questions. I know you share his concerns. Explain why.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my family, I was born in the U.S., they escaped Syria, and I've been a part of building a number of mosques, and some were contentious, even in the 70s during the Iranian hostage crisis, and we stood behind the religious freedom to build them. This is not about religious freedom. This mosque is about changing the narrative of what happened at 9/11 and about understanding that we're not just fighting terror, which is an act of violence, but actually an ideology that feeds into that, that has a slippery slope, and that there are foreign agents. I mean, no different than the Alavi Foundation that was shut down and seized. Mosques were seized across the country because those were fronts for the Iranian government. And I think similarly, there has to be concerns in today's climate where you have the Times Square bomber, you have Nidal Hassan, you have a number of influences from abroad and domestic that threaten security, and to change Ground Zero to make it a place of cultural exchange and really not the beginning of a war of ideas is really what it should be. I mean, as a Muslim, I'm offended because it should be a place to start a counterterrorism center, a Muslim anti-Al-Qaeda center, a new type of domestic war of ideas, but not just a swimming pool, an auditorium, and a cultural center. I think it sends the wrong message, as you saw in the emotions at last night's hearing.
So just to be clear, because I think your words are pretty strong, is you're suggesting this is a national security threat?
I really believe so. When you have this, Imam Rauf was quoted a couple of months ago in Sharq al-Awsat, which is an Arabic newspaper funded by the Saudis. He said that he would be looking for donors in Muslim and Arab countries all over the world. Well, I'm sorry, it is a threat if the Saudi Wahhabis and oil barons feel that they want to invest in mosques in the West, and we see that imams like Awlaki, who in 2001 appeared to be moderate and now is a jihadist, we have to recognize that the ideas follow the money, and those are not going to be mosques that are going to be at the front of the war of ideas to protect women's rights, to defend against blasphemy laws that exist in those countries, and countries that don't allow churches to be built or any non-Muslim places of worship, which I think is really what we need to do.
Reza, what do you think?
I'm speechless. I have no idea how to respond to that statement by implying without any kind of evidence whatsoever that the funding for this, which by the way is not a mosque, it's a 13-story Islamic cultural center, very much like the Jewish cultural centers that exist all over this country from New York to San Francisco, by implying that somehow its funding is coming from overseas, and so therefore it necessarily involves extremism and extremist ideology, is absurd and offensive. Listen, there's a fundamental fact that has to be understood here, is that if you're implying that, you know, every mosque in the United States that receives funding from outside sources has to open up its books, fine, I accept that. If you're saying that every single religious organization, whether it's a Catholic church or a Jewish temple, has to open up its books and talk about where it receives its funding, what foreign sources give it funding, fine, I'm okay with that. But you're referring to this one particular mosque and Islamic center and museum that's not at Ground Zero, that's a few blocks away from Ground Zero, and I would actually like to know from the good doctor, how many blocks is enough? Is 5 blocks okay? Is 7 blocks, would that be okay? Would you not have a problem with that?
So, but let me,
all of this is just coming from a place of utter Islamophobia. It's
okay, but hold on, Reza, because I do, they're also feeding into this, whether it's fair or unfair, is the imam who's involved in this project, who's heading it up, who's drawing a lot of attention for things he has said in the past. A statement to CBS's 60 Minutes that the United States policies were an accessory to the crime that happened, talking about 9/11. In the most direct sense.
Campbell, I'd say about 90% of the people in the State Department would agree with that statement.
So I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I'm just saying that he has become sort of a lightning rod in regard to this. And I guess does, in a sense, his involvement with the project taint it by association? Is that part of the problem here?
No, that's not part of the problem at all. As a matter of fact, Imam Faisal Rauf has been repeatedly cited by government sources in the United States as one of America's most pluralistic, peace-promoting religious leaders in the country. It's not about Imam Rauf. Imam Rauf is just simply a reason to focus on it. It's about people like Rick Lazio, who are trying to stir up fear-mongering and tension as a way of buttressing his war chest as he's about to run for governor.
Reza,
I'm not saying that there aren't sensitivities involved here. There are obviously sensitivities involved here. But these kinds of terms, even the very term mosque at ground zero, it's a false term. This is neither a mosque nor is it at ground zero.
All right, go ahead, Dr. Jasser.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Reza, but I think you're in denial. I mean, the bottom line is this isn't a black and white binary thing. Either you're extremist or you're a wonderful, peaceful Muslim. There is a continuum there that many Muslims that speak for our community are in denial about, which is called political Islam, where you have somebody like Imam Rauf, who is nonviolent, has never condoned terror, but has spoken and said that Sharia is like the Declaration of Independence, which is just a bunch of nonsense, where you have Sharia used in countries where he's trying to solicit funds to oppress women, to kill Christians, to kill non-Muslims.
Which countries are those?
That is an area.
Name those countries.
Iran, Saudi Arabia.
Is Egypt? He's receiving funds from Iran? He's receiving funds from Iran, is that what you just said?
And I let you finish, so let me
Did you just say
okay,
that
guys, come on. Let everybody can make their point. But Reza, I mean, if I'm wrong, nobody knows where the funds are coming from, right?
I guarantee you it's not from Iran. That would be against the Treasury Department's laws. But go ahead.
But Saudi Arabia, I think, is also very concerning, as Qatar, where his foundation has had some work with, which is the home of the Muslim Brotherhood globally. The next thing you mentioned, 2, 3 blocks, I think that's a bit of a non sequitur, because they are built, it's about their intent, or niyyah in Islam, Reza, as you know. Their intent is to basically build it near ground zero as an edifice to change the narrative. That's why this makes a difference. If they had built a humble mosque like most of us Muslims have, and domestic money, it wouldn't be that big a deal.
Very quickly, Reza, do you want to make a final point? We're almost out of time here.
If you mean change the narrative that somehow this was an attack by Islam against a Christian nation, then yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly the point of this, and that's exactly how it should be. This is not really for debate. The Constitution allows Muslims to build a mosque wherever they want to, and so this idea that somehow this isn't about Islam, it's about cultural sensitivities, frankly, I just don't buy it. And I certainly don't buy it when it comes from someone like Rick Lazio.
The narrative is about being American. It's not about being Muslim or Christian or Jewish. It's about being American.
And this is an American Muslim
guys,
center, just like the Jewish Cultural Center near it.
To both of you, many thanks, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser and Reza Aslan. Appreciate your time tonight, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Campbell.